This time we are recording in progress. Well, everyone, welcome to the Southborough Historical Commission meeting Thursday, December 2nd at 5:30. I will call the meeting to order at 5:36, and the first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes from previous meetings in September and then the minutes from November. Can we do these together, folks? Is any objection, or can we just roll this out? Do we want to do it vote on individually?
No objection.
No objection on I'm fine.
Okay, so then unless I hear otherwise, we are voting to approve the minutes of, Kevin, again, remind me, September 2nd?
September 2nd and November 4th.
And November 4th. Do I hear a motion for that?
I make the motion.
Kate Battle,
Seconded.
second, my Mr. Blaschke. All right, so here we go. Roll call votes. Kate Battles,
Aye.
Kevin Miller,
Aye.
Annie Pfaff,
Yes.
Jim Blaschke.
Aye.
Waisan says aye. Meetings are approved. Budget discussions for fiscal year 22. Next item on the agenda.
Okay, that's me. Actually, and I want to discuss FY 21 and 22. But the next week on the 9th, I have a meeting before a board to to just let them know what we're hoping for budget. I do think that there are going to be major budget cuts this year across the board. So what I know, I've done the math, is that now that we've gotten rid of internet, we've gotten rid of water. Right now, our main bills are for minutes. So I have us at 12 sets of minutes at about $1,800, because if $150 a set of minutes. And then I think that our sign program has been really well received, and if people are still in support of that, last year and then this year we've bought either 9 or 10 signs, and when people have made requests for me, it's been really nice. I've been able to give them our historical signs. So that's all that I have. Now I will say our sign artisan, I don't know, Bob hasn't increased his prices. So our paperwork says $62. I need to change that. I don't know where that paperwork is because it was started from so long ago. Where it is on a website, I need to look. He hasn't increased his prices from like $62 in, I think ever. So, and he has said to me, I just will take what people will increase. So I thought it was nice to budget for, because he also individually ships them for $70 a sign. I still think that's incredibly reasonable. So that actually brings us up to an even $2,500 for the budget this year.
Kate, I given the cost of shipping these days, I don't think that an $8 increase is enough. I would give him an additional $5.
So we can make it 75, and he has really said that. And I think I think that the signs are really very worth it. So
Absolutely.
that
the cost of shipping is up like 400%.
yeah, I agree. So
The signs are so lovely, and being hand done, I think
know.
that $75 for something so custom is really incredible for the quality.
I agree. And I mean, I've had mine. Now, granted, mine is on the covered porch. So, but I drive around town all the time, and they just do really last. So that's great. So then I have us at $2,550. I would suggest, unless we really have something more to spend it on, I probably wouldn't consider increasing our budget request for all that much more this year.
No, I wouldn't increase at all. I do think, budgeting for, I think we should budget for some additional meetings, because 12.
You got it. I think that's reasonable.
Is, one a month does not give us any leeway in terms of demolition delay or a public hearing or all that.
I agree with that.
All that.
Right, yep. So do you want to say like 15? Does 15 seem about reasonable? 15 meetings?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's exactly 3,000. And I already told them that sort of had them make a placeholder, if you will, for us for the budget was at about 3,000. So I just want to be able to go in there and very honestly tell them what we're spending our money on. And it worked really well last year. So if people agree with that, I think, because I've thought about it, other projects that we've thought about, updating our survey, different things like that. I think those are going to be big asks that we're probably going to have to appeal to at like a town meeting or something like that going forward. So if everybody approves, I'd like to next week go before the board and just request a $3,000 budget. Does that seem reasonable?
Seems reasonable to me. Do I hear any objections?
No, it sounds reasonable. Michael, at one point, there was a discussion of some portable tour headsets. Did that get squared away or purchased, or were they still on the table?
Well, I purchased them. I haven't submitted bills for this yet to anyone, frankly.
That's for the society, correct?
Yes. What is the, so, and this is something that we need to talk about. What is our budget left over for this year because we do need to replace that huge sign.
Well, that's already in my budget. Let me
Okay.
go, let's talk about FY22, because I think we probably need to make a motion first, because I do want to review FY21, if
Okay,
everybody's okay with that.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to.
Well, let me just say, just so people know too, so you feel comfortable, is that this does, it gives us not a big cushion, but a little bit of a cushion. Like if we run into something that for some reason we need to have more than 15 meetings, then I reduce can easily reduce the amount of the signs that we buy. So there's a little bit of flexibility there. If we decide that there's an inexpensive mailing or something that comes up that we feel like we need to do, again, I can reduce some of the signs or the minutes. So even though $3,000 doesn't seem like a lot, there's some room in there for us should extra meetings come up or anything like that. So I just want people to have a comfort level with that I feel very good since I've been doing this is like my 6th year being treasurer, that I feel like that's a very reasonable amount of money. That's my pitch.
I will entertain a motion to accept that pitch.
And can I ask a question before we get to that?
Sure.
First of all, just for clarity's sake, this year's budget is in the amount of what?
3,500.
3,500. So by getting rid of, because the town has taken over the internet,
Yeah.
water's gone. So we'd be coming in with a budget that's $500 less. What is that? Almost 17%?
Yeah, so
reduction.
it's kind of a nice look for us to be able to say that.
Yeah, so I'm very much in favor of that. And then I just had a question with regard to the meetings, because planning for 12 meetings and then allowing for 15, that makes perfect sense to me. It all depends, of course, on the demolition delay stuff. And I just as a point of information for me, if and I like the idea of that there's wiggle room with the signs. If we have more meetings, we don't have to go back and ask for more money for meeting minutes, because we can take it out of the signs and make people wait a little bit, or make them pay or whatever. So that makes perfect sense too. It's all wonderful. But if in the event there's a flurry of demolition delay bylaw activity, and we had to meet and we actually blew our budget, what is the mechanism for, because we're required, I mean, it's a town bylaw. We're forced to meet within a particular time. So we don't have a choice like to combine it, possibly a demolition delay hearing with another meeting. So how would that work in the unlikely event that we did in fact exhaust the budget?
I believe that there is sort of an appeal process, if you will, that I could talk to people about that. But previously I bought some of the signs, earlier in our year. And at this point, I would sort of push that out, and then we would almost have enough recording secretary money for 19 meetings. Worst case scenario, I don't think we'd run into that, but I think if there's an appeal process that we would be able to get that short money to pay somebody. I mean, worst case scenario is that then, we sort of have to ask somebody on the board to do the minutes.
Okay, that sounds great to me. Yeah.
I'm just curious, what are the costs that we incur to meet?
The recording secretary.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, just the, yeah, sorry.
The recording secretary.
Okay.
That's it. So. All right, so any other questions or discussions out there about the fiscal 22 budget? I will take a motion to approve that request. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved, and do I hear a second?
Second,
Fine, and here's the roll call vote. Kate Battles,
Aye.
Kevin Miller,
aye.
Annie Pfaff.
Yes, and I just wanted to know, Dave has his hand up. I don't know if he needs to say anything
Okay.
before we finish the vote.
Oh, sorry, Dave, go right ahead. You can always talk in there.
Oh, I was going to say, I have flexibility if you're going to have an extra demo bylaw type meeting and it's just going to be a meeting for a little while. I can always do these things gratis. That's not a problem. We don't have to run over your budget for that.
Well, that's sweet of you, but we want to make sure you're paid.
Absolutely.
But that's great. So with that note, Ms. Deans Rowe,
Aye.
Annie, did we record your vote?
Yes.
Aye. Mr. Blaschke
Aye.
and Mr. Weisson says aye. Okay, so that's fiscal year 22 taken care of. Where are we at for 21?
Okay, so right now we have 237204. I have factored in another $1,200 for minutes, which brings us to 1172. I have factored in about $400 for the sign for the museum, which leaves us with 772. I think that it's probably would be a very good gesture to return about 660 of our budget, because that would be 6 months worth of the internet that the town has paid for in our budget, and that still leaves us with about $112. So I have all the things factored in, I believe, unless I'm missing something. Again, I have us paying for 8 more sets of minutes. I have us at a $400 sign, and with even a little bit of wiggle room left, and us giving back some of that money. If we're not able to do that and something comes up like extra minutes, I have until June 30th. That doesn't need to be, we don't need to decide on that now. But if it's possible, typically in years past, of course, when you have a budget, you want to use your budget. But I think this is going to be a year of hardships, and then next year with budget cuts and everything. And because they gave us the money for the internet, and now we're going to have about 6 months that we don't have to pay for that. I think it's in good taste for us to, if we have that money left over, to give that back to the town.
Kate, question?
Yes.
What might be confusing, at least to me, is that I may not appreciate if the fiscal year is calendar or is it going through June 30? In other words, this extra 6 months. Is
July
June?
1st.
There,
Yeah,
that's fine.
it
Okay.
goes to June 30th. Yeah, it ends on June 30th. I have to have all of our money spent or returned to the town by June 30th.
Right, but we're in the process of approving next year. Got it.
Yes. So we have to, it's in December usually that it gets approved, but then it gets voted on at town meeting in March. I just go before like the treasurer, the town administrator, the assessor, and they sort of listen to, they will, approve or not your expenditures, and then ultimately it gets voted on at town meeting.
I don't have any problem with that. I think it's fine.
And like I said, we have until June 30th. It's just something for us to think about. Like I said, I already have some free signs. I have the sign for the museum factored in there. I have 8 more sets of minutes to pay Dave, and that we might have, we might need a few more, a little bit more of that. But then if we have a little bit left over, I think this would be sort of that exception of a year that we might want to give some of it back. And that's just more for everybody to have in the back of their mind.
I think we're good to go ahead with that sign, Kate, because
Oh, great.
I did get the results of the paint survey back from the museum. Interestingly, it's been a whole host of colors, but its original color was a buff sandy amber that had actual sand in the paint to simulate stone.
Oh, neat.
And so we'll be publishing that. So it was probably a sort of a sandy buff color with then a darker side detailing on the coining. It's really interesting. I'll be publishing that through the society about the.
All right, so maybe at our next meeting, we could talk about that and we could finalize what we wanted to say and the paint
Exactly.
in detail, and I can place that order with Bob. Last I talked to him, he was maybe getting hip surgery. So I will follow up with him anyway, but anyway, so that was FY21 was a little bit more of an FYI, actually, just for people to keep in the back of their minds.
Very good. Do you have any questions or discussion on that point, my friends? Hearing none, we'll move on to the chairman's report. I will try to be very brief about this. So if you haven't listened to the last Board of Selectmen meeting, at which I and many other people made very vocal appeals about the St. Mark's Triangle, you should. In essence, the project was voted to continue onwards without the archaeological review that we had asked for. However, I do think that there is some movement to derail the current planning for the park and maybe think about other ideas about how this could actually roll out. The meeting was quite contentious, as you might expect. I don't think, in my personal opinion, that the value of the possibility of Native American graves was given great consideration. I don't think, frankly, that we as an historical commission or we as a group of non-Native faces should be determining what kind of memorial or type of memorial. I think there should be discussions with the Nipmuc tribe and with the chief, who is right here in Natick. Hopefully these discussions will get facilitated and that some sort of plan will come forward that restores some of the tree cover that's been lost in that area, which I think is also critical to the old burial ground issues. The tree cover and the windbreak. As you can see now, it is just absolutely barren. I see people wandering by. I was there at the museum today and just wandering by and looking at it in dismay. And I think many of the questions remain open about the legality of this process of using these easements and or temporary licensing agreements to thwart the will of town meeting. I think there certainly will be a lot of discussion about that and about the fact that we received $300,000 for a history walk that we actually did not get. So, I did my best. I think a lot of people were feeling pretty much the same, but the Board of Selectmen was not particularly responsive to, yet again, to the historical issues involved here. So that is my report to you on that. Several days after that, I received a notice from Lisa Braccio stating that she was arbitrarily withdrawing our tax worker that had been assigned to the Historical Commission to help put forth the publicize or actually make public, put on the internet, the collections of the Historical Society. I frankly think this is absolutely outrageous and was very much a tit for tat for the rather contentious nature of that meeting. The Historical Commission, back to Joe Hubley's chairmanship, has always employed a senior working at the museum to help get the society's collections out to the general public. That worker was not doing anything to benefit the society itself, wasn't working on membership lists or rolls, wasn't doing publicity or the holiday house tour, wasn't actually doing anything except scanning material to get out to the public so that the taxpayers of Southborough can benefit from the society's collections. Also, the lady that was working was a former teacher, and she was working on educational programs that she wanted to work for the 3rd graders and 6th graders. Without notice, Ms. Braccio wrote me saying that she talked to town council. This was a use of public funds for a private institution, it wasn't appropriate, and that the tax worker would be reassigned. And I'm very sorry for the inconvenience. I've sent you the letter. We'll include it in the record of this meeting today. I am absolutely opposed to this. This has been the Historical Society was founded to support the mission of the Historical Commission in this town. And some folks have been working. The last great worker that we had, or not the last great worker, but one of our more famous workers was our former select woman who worked for us for all those years, and there was never any problem. And who am I thinking of? Just had a senior moment. Come help me.
Donna McDaniel.
Donna McDaniels, thank you. I knew Rebecca would say our dear Donna, who's now moved away. And, you know, that was considered fine. So I'm just putting it out there. I think it's just highly inappropriate, and there's not much of anything I can do about it other than vote with my feet next May. So.
Can I just ask a question? So were the current selectmen not aware that the society had this worker, or like, what is it, like, why is it just now becoming an issue if it's happened forever?
I don't know. According to Ms. Bracho, you can read the email I sent you. She reviewed the CPC meeting that I was at, where I explained that, you know, the work that was not approved by the CPC was being done by the tax workers, which was this educational program, and that was deemed to be inappropriate. So this is a reward for being forthright about the process. I just think it's outrageous, and that, you know, the society doesn't suffer because, you know, we have our collections, and you know whether people can see them or not, I mean, doesn't help us one way or the other. I mean, but the people who really did suffer were, first of all, the lady who was very much enjoying the work and was very engaged in this process. Secondly, the taxpayers of Southborough and all the genealogists and all the people who asked to see our collections and would like better online access. And thirdly, the children of Southborough who could benefit from the material that we have in our collections. And those of you who know how what the programs that we've done previously for the third graders or have been there know how successful this has been in the past. And rather than increase our visibility, this decreases it. I think it's very political. I think it's very personality driven, and I think it's pretty despicable. So as I say, unfortunately, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. I will say that it has provoked enough outrage that certain people have stepped up to volunteer on their own time to make up for the work that was missing, because they just think it's absolutely outrageous. So the work continues unabated. It's just that the town will not be benefiting from it. And then I just wanted to put the letter that I have sent to you from Debbie DeMuria regarding the tree warden on the agenda, to thank her publicly and to encourage you all to read this and absorb it. And she has pointed out correctly that since Southborough's population has now reached 10,000, exceeded 10,045 people as of the latest census, the tree warden is required to be certified, and that there is a conflict of interest. And I'm paraphrasing her, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but there seems to be, or would be better, should I say this? It would be better that the tree warden not be placed within the Department of Public Works, and that the independent tree warden should be assessed to review the projects of the Department of Public Works. Historically, that's not been the case. In fact, Ms. Galligan has served as interim tree warden for many years on and off. And fortunately, with our new population rise, this kicks off a different set of reporting requirements. And as you know, we have met previously to talk about the historic trees in town, expressed our concern at the rate that they seem to be taken down. We've talked ad nauseum about this St. Mark's Triangle. And I think that this is something that I certainly personally would support, and I hope that you all would support, in terms of making sure that we have a qualified, certified, independent arborist making decisions about these trees. And I want to thank Debbie for sending this on to us. I think it's a fantastic thing. And I thank you for CCing the Historical Commission on this. And so that also will read into the record officially, and then post that to make sure that the public gets a chance to see her comments. So That's all I have for you in a chairman's report. Is there any other discussion, matters, questions, concerns, or issues that you would like to raise, commissioners? Oh, one last thing, sorry. Today, I received, and I probably think you received, I don't know if it went out to everyone or just the chairs, a letter from Ms. Bracho, her assistant, asking us to respond by the 7th, listing our greatest achievements for this past year. Let me see if I can read it to you. Let's see here. Good morning. At upcoming Board of Selectmen's meeting, the chair, Lisa Bracho, would like to mention the highlights and accomplishments from the past year for each of the departments. If you could please send me 1 or 2 things from your department, committee, commission accomplished, or a few things that you think went well this year, would be greatly appreciated. Thanks so much, Melanie. Anyone want to comment on things that you think went really well with Historical Commission last year? My comment might be still standing.
Can I throw in 2 hopeful thoughts? One is that we are on the cusp. Let's hope. I know there's been a delay at the national level for the approval of the National Register Downtown Historic District, which I think will be monumental once it's finally signed off on. And I think excluding myself, that present and past members of the Historical Commission really deserve a round of applause for the work they did to get it that far. And it has been approved by the state and is pending the final approval. So I think that's a big plus. And the other thing is that we are in the middle of serious discussion about resolving issues with the demolition delay bylaw. So I'm trying to take an optimistic view of that as well. That's not phrased for publication quite yet, but that's the thrust of my thinking, at least. So.
Well, that certainly outvotes my thing, because I'd totally forgotten it. With all the negativism, I had totally forgotten.
And still standing.
And still standing. The National Register and still standing.
Well, our little sign program is very small, not terribly consequential, but it is positive. It's a nice thing that we're able to do for 10 interested residents a year. It's kind of a nice, it's a nice little small, not terribly consequential, but it's a lovely little program.
Well, and
I see more and more of them
And I
around
don't take
town.
credit for that either. I never started it, I didn't start it.
I think you could take a little more credit there. I just heard from the chair of Marlborough's Historical Commission, and he wanted to get in touch with our guy, remember, Kate, and they were they were going to model their signs after ours, and they were going to restart their program. So I actually
They did already. Actually, because he and I talked a bunch of times this summer. We were going to meet for coffee, but we didn't. But he did. He and Bob are already working together. So that is nice.
So that's fantastic. So yes. So thank you, Kevin, as usual, for bringing some glimmer of hope.
Little ray of sunshine.
I would add that we had 2 historic projects moving forward with the help of CPA funds this year. That might be more of a accomplishment for the CPC committee rather than ours, but I do think it's significant to the historic preservation in our town.
Yes, but those were accomplished by the society. And now we know that there is this distinct division between the society and the commission.
Well, the townhouse.
What?
The townhouse is a huge project that's
that's a CPC project.
Right. That's a CPC project, but it's using historical funds. And it wouldn't have gone forward without our support and our advocating for the project.
No, that's true, nor the work for the museum.
Yes, exactly. That was my point.
Michael, when did we get the flag back?
I
The
don't remember. I think that was in the past year.
Wasn't it this summer that it just got hung up? Or have I lost an entire year?
You've lost an entire year.
I thought so.
I will honestly say I have a very hard time distinguishing between the events of 20 and 21.
Me too.
They seem to all have melded into a similar sort of experience, and I cannot remember whether that was 20 or 21.
Yeah.
And I'll have to go back and look a lot of times to see. But anyway, so I will respond then with the signs in the National Register District. I think that's a very politic answer. Maybe I'll have Kevin respond to that because he'll be more politics than I would, because I would not have said any of those things. But I'm still standing sounds good.
Put that in.
Yes, we should be very, very proud of the National Register District. It is being held up slightly because of some concerns on the wording. The consultant who wrote this for us did not seemingly do the best job and had done work for another town that was actually sent back to Mass Historical. And so Mass Historical actually fixed his work for us and delayed the submission of it to make sure that every I and T were dotted and crossed. So that has been the holdup there. As a matter of fact, I think I should check in with them and just to see what the story is there to keep that ball rolling. But yes, hooray to that. Hooray to that. And hooray once again to our dear late departed colleague, Kate Madison, who made that happen, because she really made that happen. I'm going to try to attend, by the way, and any of you who would like to attend, by the way, there's a seminar hosted by Chris Skelly's successor, who's a lady whose name I don't remember. I believe it's next Thursday. There's a state-held conference on creating local historic districts, sponsored by Mass Historical. And I have registered for that. For some reason, it's showing a waiting list, even though it's a Zoom seminar. So I'm not quite sure what that story is, but I can send the details if anyone on Thursday would like to attend that. I don't know how long it is. It's at 10 o'clock. But I would like to get the details of that because it would be a logical next step, I think, into the process.
Michael, I'd be interested if you want to forward that out to us.
Okay, I will do that. I will dig up the material and send it out. As I said, when I went to register, it said wait list. So I don't know whether or not there was something, but it's virtual. So, I mean, who cares? So we'll see. Otherwise, there is a list of these. I finally did get the commission on the listserv about all the events and things that they're doing. They do seminars that I was going to attend one, but it conflicted with this meeting tonight about how to be a good historical commission. All the proper open meeting laws and things like that. I thought, oh, maybe I should go brush up on that, and see sort of what the story was. But unfortunately, it was a conflict. But they are starting their program again of these seminars, which in the past have been very, very helpful. So.
And Michael, are there fees associated with those?
No, they're all free. It's all free.
Okay, great. Because I was going to say that I can absolutely add stuff like that to the budget, educational opportunities to the Historical Commission, but if they are free, that's great.
Kate, I'm sorry, they're actually in Constantinople and require first-class airfare and stay at the Palace Hotel.
Sure.
I would need maybe 3,000 or 4,000 to attend.
Sure, no problem.
Bring any one of you along who wants. I just heard an ad. Turkish Airlines has 7 daily flights to Istanbul every day, right from Boston. So, yeah, no, they're free, unfortunately.
Great.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's enough for a quick meeting. Does anyone have any other things that they'd like to add?
No, just thank you all so much for being flexible and doing this for me so I can go into that budget meeting well informed.
There you go.
I'd like to thank you, Kate, for being an awesome treasurer and for so long.
Oh my goodness, thank you. It's not really that hard, but thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Good.
second.
And that's because you're going to keep doing it right into a whole new term starting next year. Don't you even think about stepping off this commission.
Yeah, you'll see.
No, listen, honey, I know where you live. You will never get another egg again. Or rotten eggs. Kevin, you had something to say. I see your mouth and.
I did. Sorry. Yeah, my mouth hanging open. I just want to, and I apologize because I know it's a sore point, but I just want to double back for a brief moment to this issue, and it's partly for the, again, as fairly recent hire, as it were, for the sake of my own clarity, with regard to the town tax employee and working at the on behalf of the commission at the society on society materials, and that employee having been sort of revoked ultimately by the decision of town council. I know, I mean, you said there's nothing to be done, and I agree, of course, that in terms of the present situation, it is what it is, and town council's decision is final. But to try to take a sort of optimistic view of this going forward, I wonder if
I want to correct one thing. It wasn't the decision of town council. What town council said was, this could be perceived to be a problem. This was the decision of the Board of Selectmen, who decided to perceive it as such, even though they know full well that is not the case. So,
okay, I'll rephrase and say the decision of the Board of Selectmen with concurrence of town council, but I get your point. What I'm trying to look is past the present situation toward the future, because I wasn't aware, for instance, that there was a long history of such people working at the society on various projects related to dissemination of historical materials to residents. So that's news to me. And if on the one hand, I think to myself, we have to play by the ground rules that are set for us. And so if there's a determination to make a sharp distinction between the society and the commission, I in a way welcome that, because it just clarifies the field for us going forward. That said, if there is a place, I think it's worth a conversation with the parties involved about how we might proceed in the future to get some benefit out of this for residents who would like access to the materials of the society, and that there's something that the commission could facilitate. I mean, it gets, I know it gets very muddy and difficult, and this is a kind of an example of it, and it causes everybody a kind of unhappiness, I think, on all sides. But, in other words, I think to myself, would it make a difference, for instance, I mean, it's funny to me that of course, the society's building is across a parking lot from the townhouse. Would it make a difference if that same worker were digitizing the materials in the townhouse and they were simply carried across the parking lot? Like, I'm just, for my own sake, understanding going forward.
The museum is a town building. This is how this even gets to be crazy. The society is housed in a town building. These collections are housed in a town building. I mean, the society was formed to support the work of the Historical Commission, to accept volunteers, and essentially to be a volunteer organization for the commission, which only met once a month or so. Right. So, I mean, this has been inextricably linked. It's a supporting organization. And that has never, ever been an issue in all the years I have been around. Now, at times, the society has chosen not to be a supporting organization, and that certainly is up to the society. There was a point, for instance, they didn't want to get involved in the 84 Main Street thing at all. And they didn't want to let us meet there, actually, which is kind of funny because it's a town building. But they do hold the lease. So, I mean, whatever, however this goes, what bothers me so tremendously about this, I have been working for now close to 30 years here in town to try to improve access to these materials, knowledge of our town's history, celebration of our town's history, and utilization of these materials, of which we have this tremendous collection in the society, for our school children, which I think is so important to engender a sense of place. And to have something like this occur, which the optics of it are horrific. And so there might be justification, but wow, it happens after 3 days after this meeting, after it's been going on all this time. Yeah, I understand that. But I also understand that, you know, there's also something about cutting off your nose to spite your face. And that's exactly what this is. There is a big difference between working at the society and working for the society, which is what I wrote to the Board of Selectmen.
Well, I guess all heard and acknowledged. I think what I'm kind of, the way I'm looking at it is, you know, is there a path forward so that, you know, we can get as much done as possible in a way that avoids, you know, like I guess I look at it that if the ground rules have changed from what they had previously been, okay, let's get them all worked out and clearly set. And so then we can move forward, playing by the adjusted rules if that's what's necessary. So that's what I guess it's just something for us to think about, because I'd like to seek a kind of clarity on that so we know what to do, and can you know, move on to more good works, I guess. And if there's some way to sort of mediate, not on this particular case because it's settled, but you know, on the next go round, like how do we, you know, get it clear what the expectation is as far as separation, whatever is required of us between commission and society.
I don't think anything's required. I will refer that to I referred the Board of Selectmen, and I'll refer you to section 48D that sets up the Historical Commission's responsibilities. And they clearly are set out as having an educational function that allows the society to publish maps, pamphlets, et cetera, et cetera. The language is obviously very 1970s. It's not talking about online stuff, but the issue is clearly to educate the public and help increase public awareness of historical assets in town. And the problem has been not that the Historical Commission has done too much of this in the past, is that it has done too little. There has been a huge separation between the Historical Commission and the Historical Society, starting probably in the 1980s, where they went their own way. The Historical Commission didn't pay any attention to what they're doing and gave up its educational role in its entirety. Now, since my tenure here, at least since 84 Main Street, I realized how dangerous that is to have the Historical Commission totally devolved from an educational function and a participatory function in town. And when that happens, things like tearing down the Burnett Mansion start to become possible. So it seemed to me absolutely logical that in trying to encompass the huge collections of this very penurious society with the power of promotion that the commission could achieve would make sense for all parties. There's no financial benefit to the society. I mean, it's not like we're publishing this material or gaining any profit by it or charging people for the material. This is all to benefit the residents of Southborough and scholars in general. So
may I say something?
Yes.
So I hear what you're saying, and Kevin as well, and I agree with it all. I think what, and I don't know how we go about this, but I think what we need to do is it schedule a meeting? Is it to sort of, I can understand that there have been situations where maybe there's been too much of a blurred line between the two. But the Historical Commission's charge, maybe the charge needs to be updated. I haven't read it in a while.
Well,
Maybe
it's state law, Kate. So I mean, we can't like update it.
Okay. But it can't, like, at this point, it would seem that our only role would be, you know, managing the demo delay bylaw. So perhaps some more conversation needs to be had, and I don't know if that's with Board of Selectmen or with Attorney Tallerman or what it is to figure. out. Because since I've been on it too, for almost 6 years now, there's just been more of a cooperative relationship between the society and the commission as far as materials, the physical materials that we own that we want to be available to the town. So
I think the
I think we need to
society
figure out how to
owns-
get clarity on that.
yeah, the society holds a lot of town assets of like historical value, the largest
Right.
collection.
Right,
It would seem that the commission would have an interest in that.
right.
Let me just briefly, I know everyone wants to go. Let me just share a screen with you. Let's see, I want to share this one. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Section 8D. City or town, which
Very
is
small.
very small.
Apparently, I'm a little visually impaired.
There.
Oh, that's great. Yep, yep.
Okay. So this is the legislation that empowers is historical commission's establishment powers and duties. And I would really urge you all to read this because it says exactly what we can and cannot do. In the 1970s, the town had to vote this in. It was something that the citizens voted. But I'll just take you to the second line. Such commission shall conduct researches for all places of historical archaeological value, shall cooperate with the state archaeologists in conducting such researches or other surveys, shall seek to coordinate the activities of unofficial bodies organized for similar purposes, and may advertise, prepare, print, and distribute books, maps, charts, plans, and pamphlets, which it deems necessary for its work. For the purposes of protecting and preserving such places, it may make such recommendations as it deems necessary to the city council or the selectmen, and subject to the approval of the city council or the selectmen to the Massachusetts Historical Commission. So that goes on to talk about the certification, the state archaeologist. I'm going to go down here to, I don't know what line this is. The commission may hold hearings, may enter into contracts with individuals, organizations, and institutions for services furthering the objectives of the commission's program. May enter into contracts with local or regional associations for cooperative endeavors furthering the commission's program. May accept gifts, contributions, and bequests of funds from individuals, foundations, from federal, state, or other governmental bodies for the purpose of furthering the commission's program. May take and sign any agreements and may do and perform any and all acts which may be necessary or desirable to carry out the purposes of this section. Seriously.
So what strikes me, and while you were doing that, I also went back and reread Lisa's note, so theoretically disqualified the use of town money, even though it was volunteer. Seems to me that maybe we ought to add a line item to the budget for research services under the charter of section 8D. And maybe the way that would play out is that they would realize that this is an authorized activity and they'd go back and re-engage the volunteer. But you could make a legitimate case that according to the charter, we should be able to hire people to do supporting work, even if it's done at the society, right?
Absolutely.
Well, maybe we should make a point of it. That's what I'm saying.
I would say, I agree with you, Jim. I do. I think that's actually really smart, especially, I think about it in terms of other, meetings that I attend. I would say, first, we should get some have some discussions about that. Like I said, I don't know if it's with Tallerman or if it's with Board of Selectmen, and then figure out, like, I can't just go in and ask right now if we don't know sort of a dollar amount. But going forward, do I think that's a great idea once we sort of figure out how many people doing how many hours? I think we need to have some discussions and get some clarification from people about that. And then is that something that we add to our budget going forward? I think that's a great idea.
I think it just raises the flag in the right way.
Agreed. I just think that what we want to do is just start communicating about it ahead of the game, and just have some discussions with the powers that be and say, okay, so we don't want blurred lines either, and we want to say this is what we would like to do. Why? This is our mission. This is our job as historical commission, historic preservation. So this is what we would like to do, and how much money we think we could spend. What's you know, the feedback on this? What are the optics? What's the legal counsel opinion on that? I think that's sort of the route we should take.
I would throw in there, I love this conversation, and this is why I brought it up. It's like, I just want to figure out how we can get in front of this
Great.
going forward, so that the work that I agree with Michael 100% on all this, that is so valuable and that needs to be done, does get done. And I'm like delighted in this particular case to hear that members of Historical Society have sort of stepped forward to, you know, into the breach to kind of complete the work that the removed volunteer was doing. And so, you know, that work will continue and get done. But I'm just saying that, you know, yeah, let's figure out, like, going forward, how we get right with all this so that we, you know, can make progress.
Right.
So, yeah.
Amen.
This is a, you know, lemonade out of a lemon kind of moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I just,
Well, let's add that to our next agenda, is sort of figuring out, like, what do we think hours we would want somebody to do, and what specifically would we want to have done, and then we could present it to the Board of Selectmen or Jay Tallerman, and let's figure that out, because I think that is
also,
smart.
I would remind you that we are absolutely allowed to solicit funds ourselves and raise money and hold property. And so if we wanted to do this research, we could go and attempt to fund it ourselves. You know, apply for grants, apply for other people, you know, and, you know, control this. But, you know, what Jay Tallerman said to me was that this is the purview of the Board of Selectmen. I said, is there an appeal? And he said, no, it's up to them. They manage this program. Well, if that's going to be the case and they don't want to do that, and that's certainly within their rights, then perhaps we should manage our own program and fundraise for it. I mean, or get the society to donate money to the commission and allow them to do it that way. I mean, you know, there's a thousand ways to do this type of stuff. It's just that, you know, making this arbitrary, what bothers me here tremendously is making this arbitrary decision that is harmful to all parties concerned. And that is what I'm reacting to. However, I love the ideas that you are all thinking positively about, you know, ways to do this and engage. And, you know, I'd like to try to get more people involved in this stuff, because we are very, very close to be able to digitize a large portion of our collections. I think within the last year, well, since, well, we had this worker and we had actually 2 volunteers working with her. I believe they digitized well over 1,000 images in the very short time that they were actually doing this. Now, to give you some indication of how many images that is, there are only 4,000 so far items in the collection. So, and actually Dave was doing some of this work here ourselves as a volunteer basis. So, you know, to date, there are only 4,000. So, I mean, you can see what a tremendous amount of progress this made in a very short period of time. And, you know, if we had, you know, be able to continue onwards with a former teacher designing these educational pods and stuff that we've talked about many times at the Society to try to get this material out there, all the better. But what my point is to you, and when you have a chance, do read the chartering legislation for historical commissions. I think you will find that we've really been fulfilling only a portion of our duties. If we limit ourselves to purely managing the demolition delay bylaw. We're supposed to be the first line of defense for history in this town. And you know, it's not always easy, but we're also supposed to be the first line of defense for education and getting promulgating the history of this space. And I will say that I got something of a stern lecture by the state archaeologist when I met with him on the St. Mark's Triangle, asking why we weren't notified. He didn't notify we didn't notify them of this sooner. And you also notice that the letter from the state archaeologist came to the board, came not to the town of Southborough, but to the Historical Commission, because they consider us to be their agents in town. And so, fortunately, I hope we don't ever have to deal with that situation again. But yeah, I mean, it's like, where were you people essentially? And I said to him, how does this work in other towns? And he said, well, I'll tell you, where the preservation is best is where you have active commissions and active societies working together to promote the history of their towns. And where the preservation, where accidents like this happen is where you don't. So, I think that's something to keep in mind. And I would very much support furthering these discussions. It may be also that this idea that I floated past you of about historic Southborough, was that what did I call it? That sort of joint organization effort between the society and the, historic Southborough.
Historic Southborough.
Yeah. Maybe that needs to be formulated in some sort of legal fashion as an entity that links the two organizations, so that could be done that way. I don't know. It's pure conjecture. But it would seem crazy that we didn't do everything in our power to support the work of the Historical Society and vice versa. It just happens to be that for this one time and one time only, you are sitting with both heads together, but it will not always be that way. And while I can still do this and move as many of these projects forward during my limited tenure, my goal was, before I got out of that society, that we would get this material out the door and into the hands of the public. So, amen. Amen. Kevin, do you have anything more? I kind of cut you off there. I apologize, my friend.
No, I don't, except I like the idea of going after, if there's money needed to complete or to continue digitization of documents and photographs, seeking grant money always makes, and getting it always makes you friends in town, I would think, you know what I mean? And maybe if there's an educational component, I know there was some consideration about St. Mark's and even Fay students or the schools, but I particularly think that maybe St. Mark's would have some interest in ponying up some money to digitize materials that would then have an educational purpose. Being right across the street from the museum.
You are truly the optimist, my friend. We have to keep you around just to keep the rest of us legal. I mean, seriously.
I hear they have some money. So.
Well, I'll introduce you to the CFO. He's a totally nice guy, actually, Rob. Yeah, and that's like asking money from Harvard. It's like continually poor. We have no money. We have to put the students on single-ply toilet paper because we have no money. That's not a joke. That actually happened. Actually happened about 2 years ago. It's like, oh yeah, our budgets are really low. Everyone goes to single-ply. And by the way, we're canceling hot breakfast in all the houses, except on the weekends. $50 billion endowment. Anyway, okay, my friends. Anything else? I promise to get you out of here soon. So far, it hasn't been quite so soon. But anything else? Going once, going twice.
Oh, I just wanted to confirm, are we still meeting on the 16th?
We are not.
Okay.
Oh,
We are not. Merry Christmas to you all. That's my present.
Thank you.
I could use in that one last meeting.
Merry
I
Christmas.
think I have 3 next week.
Merry Christmas to you all. As a matter of fact, when is our next meeting? It's in January, is it not?
wow.
We
I
didn't
don't
schedule
have
after
one on my
post the
calendar.
16th.
Yeah, I don't have one.
All right, can we just schedule a meeting now in January so that we are set on a date here?
Yeah.
I think we could meet fairly early in the year. Maybe the second week, which is actually starting with the 3rd. Does that float anyone's boat?
Works for me.
Week of the 10th is better for me.
Week of the 10th?
Yeah, I'm traveling.
Me too.
That would be fine.
I can't do Monday. That's the only day I can't do it.
Yeah,
Planning
nor
board.
can I.
Kevin, your teaching schedule is different next semester, right?
Yes, no evening classes.
No. Whoa.
Amen. Well, then how about Tuesday, the 11th? Does that work?
It does not work for me.
Okay.
I have an appointment, and then Wednesdays, normally Andrew has town meetings. So Thursdays in general are the best day for me.
Fine by me.
Even though you have CPC back to back?
No, it's not always back to back.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I would say, no, I don't think for CPC we have anything scheduled out. So I would say, let's get that date on the calendar and I can tell them I'm not available that night.
That's fine. So are you,
Yeah.
everyone's fine with the inauspicious date of Thursday, the 13th of January?
Yeah, what time?
I prefer to do these things earlier to get us the hell out of here and go have dinner. Does that work for you guys?
5:30?
5:30.
I would say 6 is the earliest that it works for me. Later is better, but
Okay.
6 is better than 5:30.
Okay.
I like 6 a little better if that works.
Okay, that's fine.
Fine
6
by
is
me.
fine. You know, it's one side of evil or the other. It's either post after dinner and you're fighting, absolutely wanting to go to sleep,
Yeah.
or it's the anticipation of starving, at least for my purposes, keeps me
Mhm.
awake and active as
Well,
we're heading into
I
this.
think Andrew will be back in the office come January, so he'll be coming home on the train and then handing off the baby. So just that buffer time I think will be helpful.
I'm all for baby buffers. Okay. Anything else, my friend? So we will see you on the 13th, which means I wish you all the merriest of merries and a happy new year, and don't let the Omicron bite. Never ending.
Same to you all.
Yeah.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays, everybody.
Holidays.
All right. Happy holidays. I'll
Bye.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second,
Seconded.
Ms. Battles,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Ms. Annie,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Blaschke,
Aye and bye.
and wife that is I and bye. That would have been my line. I and bye. Goodbye, all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
See you all.